SmackDown. It had such an amazing start. It started off with Rhea Ripley eating a banana, and then it started off with Lyra Valkyria and Bailey entering the arena with fake coffee cups with no coffee in them, and then Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair with a cupcake, and then like no exaggeration. This is how we started the show. I miss those days when we had intros, like show opening intros, and then pyro. But no, we just get people entering the arena, and those clips that we see on TV are taped hours in advance. Anyways, St. Louis, what do you want to talk about? Is what Randy said to open up the show. And then we get Randy thanking his family for being in attendance and saying that they matter the most. And then Cody Rhodes comes out. And then guess what they do? Randy and Cody brawl. They brawl, yeah. And then Pat McAfee is the person who was apparently put into place by Ari Emanuel, because WrestleMania tickets are pretty bad. Also, another thing is it's no fee Friday. Pretty much, they're in desperate need for tickets for WrestleMania, so they're just trying their best, trying to do whatever they can. And then Pat McAfee cuts a promo after he kicks Cody Rhodes in his in whatever the hell's down there. And then he talks about. Actually, I got the notes right here. Okay, so Pat McAfee says that last week SmackDown was rated the worst. Which is, that's SmackDown. SmackDown every week's pretty bad. But, it comes a point in time to... Actually, I'll talk about this later in the video. But Pat McAfee talks about pretty much the fans and talks about what the fans have been wanting, and the company pretty much isolating the fans and not giving us what we want. And then, he's talking about the Attitude Era fans and the fans who were excited. And he was talking about how there's 5'5" guys having matches for no reason every week. These long, drawn out Iron Man like matches. And he was talking about how Cody Rhodes is what's wrong with this company currently, and how champions like him are what's wrong with the company, and how the corporate champions are what's wrong with the company. And he's not wrong, but it's just weird. I'll get on with this. He talks about how the show has been absolute crap, how people circle jerk each other in Gorilla whenever he turns on Netflix. Talking about Unreal, by the way. How tickets are still available for WrestleMania 42, even though that people, the content creators and the shills and the influencers are saying how they're trying to tell you how this is the best WrestleMania season, even though that, man, it's really not. But my thing is, Pat McAfee was one of the things wrong with he was one of the things wrong with the company as far as an audio, the audio aspect of it, because after a while, Pat McAfee, he went from one of my favorite commentators to just being a sound effects board, like a damn. Pat McAfee turned into a human Discord soundboard. Oh my God, that's one big SOB. Michael Cole, I'm yeeting all over myself. That's one big SOB. Michael Cole, can you feel the heat? He's yeeting. Oh God. Like, just Pat McAfee, or either telling dick jokes all the time, and because he can get away with a lot more because he's, famous. And, just things that Pat McAfee would say over and over and over again. And it got to a point where I didn't even want him on commentary anymore. So when he said the business had passed me by, yeah, well, I didn't have any hard feelings when it came to him supposedly separating from the company. I didn't care for him to be in the company more, as a commentator, at least. Especially since, his match with Gunther and all that stuff. And I was just like, oh, please no. But then, the promo just kind of ended with Pat McAfee and Randy Orton driving off. But the thing was, the thing that really made this promo really strange is the fact that Pat McAfee was the wrong person to send this message. If anything, it should have been Randy Orton or somebody, to tell Cody that everything was wrong with the company. But unfortunately, it was a straight call from Ari Emanuel, which is what I'm hearing from everywhere. But then the crowd was silent because we spent all this time just for it to be Pat McAfee. But I'm pretty sure this is out of Triple H's hands, because the boss has bosses. But then they ended up driving off in a Ram, and then we get Rhea Ripley versus Michin, and then this is when I wanted to make a grilled cheese, because usually when I see Rhea Ripley, I figured that nothing special is gonna happen. But then nothing special happens. She ends up botching a razor's edge when Michin has to help her with her foot on the rope, and then beat her with a prism trap, and then it was over. And then and then they have this thing where they beat up on Rhea Ripley and then hit her with a jaded. Pretty sure we saw this 3 weeks in a row. But then Io Sky comes in, but Io Sky is from Raw, so immediately this makes zero sense, because Io Sky isn't, like, when they have a brand split, there's usually security or somebody escorting them out of the building, because they're not really allowed at these shows. But we have Io, who's been doing nothing on Raw except for fighting for Kairi Sane's love, affection, and friendship from Asuka. But then we have Rhea Ripley and possibly one of the worst feuds, but has so much potential because of the real life beef between Jade and Rhea Ripley. Somehow, some way, the company just figured out a way to ruin something so cool, man. I swear, I was invested in Jade and Rhea at first. Yeah, but then we get Io and Rhea, drop kicking B-Fab and Michin, even though it would have been better if Jade was able to dominate, or, have B-Fab and Michin do something to make her look like a better champion, because we're only 2 weeks away and nothing has happened. This feud has completely fallen apart. But then after that weird thing with Io being on another brand, we get it's confusing as hell why she was even on the show last night. It's very strange. But then we get Aleister Black and Zelina and Zack Ryder backstage, and they say words, and then they say other words, and then they say words to each other, and then they make a match out of nowhere, because storylines don't exist this WrestleMania season, or ever really. Usually when there is a good storyline in WWE, they either drag it out, slow burn it, or just end it for no real reason. So this match happened because Matt didn't like what Aleister said, so they fight tonight. That's pretty much how it goes on Raw, too. Like, for example, if somebody's talking to Adam Pearce, wrestler A is talking to Adam Pearce, and then wrestler B talks to Adam Pearce, and then they go like, hey, you interrupted me. Well, what are you going to do about it? Let's have a match. Okay. Then they have a match, and then no real interaction after that, so there's no rivalry or storyline to go from. And then they just an exhibition for no reason. That's kind of what happened here. But then we get the MFTs backstage, and then they say words. I didn't really care too much about what they said, so I didn't really retain it. And then we get Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai backstage, loving, cuddling each other, Netflix and chilling, and then they get lost in each other's eyes, and then they forget that there's an interviewer, Kathy Kelly, right there with the microphone in Rhea's face, because they're just so mesmerized by each other, and then they talk. I didn't really care about what they talked about, so I just kind of moved on. But then we get the millionth match between a MFT member and a Wyatt Six member. I kind of just fast forward through this because I don't watch the shows live anymore, especially SmackDown, so I can just skip through it. And then, Tama Tonga took one of the best Sister Abigails that I've ever seen. Guerrilla Tactics. What? And then oh my gosh, dude. This was such a relief to see, man. I swear. So Tama Tonga, he frees us all. He frees the audience. He frees the fans from the prison of the Lantern storyline after he put the lantern on the ring apron for Bo Dallas to get it. And then, oh man, the storyline's finally over. Because at first it was, you know, Wyatt Six has the tag titles, and then the MFTs have the titles, and then the MFTs have the titles, and then the Wyatt Six have the titles, and then the Lanterns, and so now neither of them have the tag team championship, so they fight over the Lantern. So the Wyatt Six has the Lantern one week, and then they have it another week, and then the MFTs comes in, takes it, and so they have it that week. But then the Wyatt Six comes back and takes it the other week, and then the MFT comes back and takes the Lantern the other week, and then as soon as we think it's over, somebody attacks another person and get the Lantern the other week. I remember there was this one time when Bo Dallas he took the Lantern, he got it back, and then Hikuleo came in, kicked him in the head, took the Lantern, and then they ran back. I was like, bro, when is this gonna end? Oh man, I swear, bro, like, it was it started to be depressing after a while to see the Y6 and the MFTs go at it over his Lantern. And I looked up the Lantern with Google Lens, and it's $26 on Walmart. So, yeah. Also, where was Julia and Tiffany Stratton? Anyways, after that segment ends and Bo Dallas continues to try his hardest to be an inch or a quarter of what the Fiend once was, we go backstage to see R-Truth doing his same tired old thing to where, you know, he's confused and all that stuff. And, you know, after seeing him cut his hair and seeing him change up his look and, you know, all this stuff just to revert back to the same comedic thing that we've seen for almost 20 years, it's kind of depressing because that the Ron Killings character had so much potential, but then, you know, it's just kind of wasted now, unfortunately. But then we get Sami Zayn backstage, and then he gets booed. Now, I made a video on Sami Zayn, calling him Sammy Hogan because his character was pretty insufferable. The Sami Zayn character is really insufferable because they never really have anything for him, and then once they do, they kind of just, you know, wait out and have it tease and tease and tease, because for the past year they've been saying you can't win the world championship, Sammy. You will never be WWE champion. So he has the WWE championship. He had a WWE championship match against Drew McIntyre, and then, you know, he loses it. And that was like the 11th time that legit like 11th time he's fought Drew McIntyre. He's fought him more like more than two handfuls now. And then, you know, he's backstage asking people for advice, asking Cody, how do you become world champion? And then I made a video on it because it's gotten obnoxious. And then, you know, people in the comments of that video that I made a couple days ago, you know, they were saying how the hate is forced and how I'm desperate for views and that how Sammy's over. And then I watched this SmackDown and the crowd boos him out of the building while he's entering the building to talk to Nick Aldis. He's over? Like with the audience? Really? Interesting. It's almost like what I said was correct about Sami Zayn's character being great at first, and then it just completely diminished and became obnoxious to watch him on TV because of the booking. There was no reason why Melo should have lost, especially since we're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. Like it's not even a subjective truth. It's just the truth. So people were on my head when telling me how I'm desperate for views and all that stuff. And, you know, I had one dude who didn't even watch the video yet, and then he went back and edited his comment and said, yeah, I agree. So yeah, it was a whole bunch of nonsense, man. Like, anyways, we get Trick Williams taking away. He took Sami Zayn's supposed to be Pyro, and then, you know, he came out with Lil Boat, and then Lil Yachty was doing the ad libs like how Booker T did on NXT, and then Sami came out, and then Sami Zayn, you know, like this SmackDown was very self aware because we had Pat McAfee pretty much saying what we were all saying for weeks. Now, my question is, are the wrestling fans haters for saying everything that Pat McAfee has been saying for a while? Like, are we still haters? Are we still desperate for views by saying that SmackDown isn't as good as it used to be, and, you know, how the ticket sales for WrestleMania isn't all that, and how Cody's a corporate puppet champion who yells at the microphone and that's his only gimmick and asks what do we want to talk about? Are we still desperate for views? Are we haters? Pat McAfee just said it all. He said what we said. But no. It's only hate. is only hate until the wrestlers themselves say it. It's just like when we criticized Tiffany Stratton's title reign because they didn't have anything for her. And then she went on an interview. I think it was No Contest Wrestling. And she said, yeah, I don't even know what I am, a heel or a face. I mean, they gave me the championship and they didn't even have anything for me. No storylines, no crazy storylines like that. You know, it was really disappointing. But we were literally called haters and complainers and told not to watch the show if we don't like Tiffany's title reign. This is exactly what I mean. This is exactly what I mean. People talk about we're haters. They use the word incorrectly. Hate means you don't want to see anybody succeed. We criticize and share our grievances because we want to see this company do better. We want to see these people who are putting their bodies on the line to have a great title reign that we can remember. And not for an infamous reason, but for a great reason. But no, those sensitive shills who gets their bussies hurting every single time will say, you're hating. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Well, we watch it because we like it. We want to see it better, which is why we complain. If you're a restaurant owner and your staff is feeding people raw food, don't you want the restaurant to thrive? So won't you just fire people if they're undercooking and underperforming? Or would you just keep them because you don't want to hurt their feelings? You don't want to complain. Keep putting raw chicken on the menu and not on the menu, keep on their tables and, you know, ruining their ruining their organs with parasites. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to complain. I'll just let the chaos happen. I'll let you do the bare minimum because, you know, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Feelings matters more than facts. You can say, well, they're hating, but then the ratings are going down. Just pointing out the obvious is hate. That's not even what hate means. It's player hating. It's not even what hate means. If a show is bad and you say it's bad, that's not hating. If you like Randy Orton and I like Cody Rhodes and I boo Cody Rhodes, that's not hating on Cody Rhodes. It's not. This society is so soft and it's seeped into the wrestling community, made everybody soft, made everybody bitch made. It is so crazy. It is insane. It's honestly pretty sickening because it's mostly dudes. I talk to women wrestling fans now. The women wrestling fans are a different story because the women wrestling fans, they don't really look for the logic in it. They look for it in the entertainment aspect. So they'll see a heel or a face and then, you know, they'll chant, you know, whoever thinks is cool or attractive, you know. But the dudes that I talk to, the ones who, you know, like they actually sit there and cry and threaten your life and tell you, you know, all this stuff, you know, it's crazy, man. But like I said in that video that I made like a couple days ago about Sami Zayn being Sammy Hogan, his character is Sammy Hogan. And people are like, well, he's the best to ever do it. Yeah, I'm gonna get into that too. So, so Sami Zayn, man, like it's like this SmackDown was bad, but then they addressed it being bad. So Sami Zayn said that he doesn't need a good rap. He doesn't need a cool rap music or a mink coat, you know, to be good because he's one of the best to ever do it. But then before he stepped to the ring, he said this. I of course, you know, I go to the approach of dress down and you know, and working class. So he admitted as to why also people find his style boring. Sami Zayn doesn't look like a star. Sami Zayn looks like one of the ring crew members whenever he shows up to work. Like, he doesn't look like a wrestler. So imagine somebody who looks like either they're homeless or they walk at Walmart carrying around the WWE Championship. Believe it or not, for the newer fans, professional wrestling is an aesthetic business. You cannot possibly walk around like how Sami Zayn walks around and be WWE champion in other people's eyes. You just can't do it. He legit said, I dress down and a working class. The dude looks like a civilian, but wants to be WWE champion. See, back when he was the underground, the underdog from the underground, he looked like more of a world champion when he was clean cut, you know, had the shorter hair, you know, like I'm talking about his 2016, 2017. See, man, I used to pop whenever Sami Zayn come out, and I like gallop throughout my house like he used to do, and put my dad's hat on and throw it around the house and get yelled at. You know, like, bro, I used to want to be like Sami Zayn back in, especially when, especially 2023 Sami, especially his match. It was against, it was in Canada. It was a elimination chamber between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, bro. That was great. But then Sami Zayn just kind of dwindled. But then we get Carmelo Hayes coming out, and then Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams and Sami Zayn have this 40 million hour promo. I kind of lost interest, and then because they kept saying words and doing nothing, and then saying words and then just, you know, regurgitating the same thing back to each other. But yeah, Sami Zayn said, yeah, well, pretty much, I don't want to hear you challenge for a championship if I beat you tonight. And then we go to Aleister Black versus Matt Cardona for absolutely no reason. None of them are on the card, so for the reason why this is on WrestleMania is just filler. The reason we're on the road to WrestleMania, and we have two people who are not on WrestleMania, have no storyline with each other or storyline with anyone on the card of WrestleMania, have a filler match just cause. And then we go, and then they care so little about this match that straight after Zelina Vega gets in the ring, they don't even sell the match. They don't sell a victory. They just go backstage to R-Truth and Damian Priest. And then, you know, R-Truth is doing this thing where he thinks Danhausen is Asuka. Whenever I see that, you know, I'm conflicted with R-Truth because, you know, this comedy gimmick, he needs something else because of what I've seen him do in TNA and actually Ron Killings was in WWE for a little bit, and then they just kind of took him off TV. But yeah, just this whole Asuka, this whole R-Truth thing, like, it's gotten a lot worse for some reason. I don't know why. And then, you know, but honestly, him being in the ring is better than him talking about balls, because they had him talking about balls with Nick Aldis for like 4 or 5 months, and it was unbearable. Like, they wouldn't even have him wrestle. They just talk about, I'm gonna give you my balls, Nick. and then one time R-Truth talked about Kit Wilson's camel toe. But, you know, Kit Wilson's a dude, so that's not camel toe. These women's tag matches are harder to get through because they end in a DQ or they end in a clean victory and then a brawl. But the problem is, okay, so Alexa won. She beat Lyra. But the problem is they brawl every single week. But the problem is they're having a match at WrestleMania. So what's the point of them brawling if they're going to have a match? It's just lazy. It's like they don't put any, like, especially the women. The creative just says the creative gives the women slop, you know, and you can't have a proper show without women in this day and age. You just can't do it because the women add a different layer. Watch, if you haven't already, watch that match between Kendall Gray and Lola Vice. I think that's the best women's match of the year so far, for me at least. And then we get, you know, Danhausen and Kit Wilson and The Miz, and then Danhausen comes down to the ring, and then he wants to be in the match, and then he gets brought into the ring, and then Dan Engler is cursed instead of The Miz because he put him in the way. So then once The Miz hit the skull crushing finale on R-Truth, he had like a muscle spasm or something as the part of the curse, and then, you know, shenanigans, la-di-da-da, and then R-Truth and them win. And then Cody Rhodes he crossroads Kit Wilson, and then he starts yelling at the microphone because that's his only gimmick nowadays. It's to yell at the microphone like this. And then he says that grifter, stoner, Pat McAfee, you are Logan Paul without muscles, and you're gonna get your receipt. Fire me? Yeah, that worked out last time for you all. If Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had the third member of he was just bro, it was not hitting. The crowd was silent because the show sucked. So the crowd was just, ooh, man. The crowd was just, I don't even know, bro. It was bad. It was bad all around. And then he said, the person on Randy's phone was Pat McAfee. Color me surprised. It's true. I wrestled Roman. I wrestled John Cena. I wrestled The Rock. but they wrestled me. And I'm thinking in my head, yeah, they did wrestle you. That's how matches work. You wrestle with another, like two people. That like a one-on-one is how like it. Anyways, he said, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can be that guy anymore because I have daughters. And I'm thinking to myself, Randy Orton has daughters, Roman Reigns, he's got daughters. So I'm not, your situation here is like, I'm trying to think of many heel men who don't have. The Undertaker was heel, and he has daughters now, and Triple H got daughters, and The Rock has a daughter. Actually, when he was the final boss, his daughter was the GM of NXT, I believe. So, not sure. Yeah, but then his final line was, finally, I hear the voices, but you don't want to hear what they have to say. Sigh, sad face, death note. And then the crowd goes mild. Actually, worse than that. They just didn't say anything. They were probably checking their DMs or something, or making family plans when they get back to the hotel, or one of the dudes was setting up a date for him and his date to go hook up after the show or something like that. Cause the crowd was not invested. Whew. So then after that, we get Sami Zayn's music hitting, and then, the crowd booing. Oh, also, during the show, they were chanting Sammy Hogan. Sammy Hogan. You know who else said Sammy Hogan last year and got hate for it? Me. Because usually when I say things, they're perceived as negativity or me being desperate for views, and then the crowd usually either agrees or the wrestlers come out and say what I said. Vindication is great. It really is. But yeah, the crowd boos the dude out of the building again. And then, he comes to the ring, and then, oh wait, also another thing with these stupid audiences, they'll only chant you, they'll only cheer for you if your theme song is over. Like, for example, they were booing Sammy all night, but then as soon as the Let's Go part of his theme song hit, they said, let's go, and then they start booing again. These crowds are bipolar and useless and stupid. There's no way. Actually, they're stupid for even showing up, because I know those tickets are expensive as hell. TKO, in debt. But the fact that you can cheer a man, the fact that you can boo a man, boo, oh, let's go, and then go back to, that's crazy. that's mental illness. These audiences are such trained seals. I remember one time when it was Seth Rollins with his oh, and they were chanting Seth's name, but when he picked up the microphone, they booed the dude. But I'm like, oh, you were just chanting his name 3 seconds ago, and now it's boo. These audiences, bro. So either the theme songs are what's wrong, or something, because these audiences are weird. They'll sit there and boo a dude, cheer his theme song, cheer his name too, like Dirty Dom. But then when he picks up a microphone, they boo him. These modern audiences, they can't make up their minds worth anything, bro. It's insane. Absolutely useless. But then, we get Trick Williams dancing on the table, and then we get a match between Melo and Sami Zayn. And then we have this interesting spot where I think it's not as real. I think it's an injury or something, because it played into the final moments of the match. So we had Carmelo Hayes doing a tope con hilo over the top, and then his knee got tweaked apparently, but then Sami Zayn haluva kicked him and pinned him, and then the audience, they didn't just, bro, they started chanting Sammy Hogan, and then they started like booing him. But he's over in the arenas, right? The crowds love Sammy, right? Watch SmackDown from last night. I guarantee you, it'll tell a different story. As I said last week, like 3 days ago, and people are, you're so desperate for views. Sammy's over. Okay. All right. Okay. But yeah, Trick Williams he jumps Sami Zayn with Lil Yachty. I never thought I'd hear that, but I never thought I'd be able to say that. But yeah, Lil Yachty and Sami Zayn, Lil Yachty and Trick Williams jump Sami Zayn. And then the crowd erupts in excitement when Sami's being jumped. Like, they were silent when he won the match, and then they only cheer for him when he's getting hit with the lemon pepper steppers. That tells you a lot about how they've been portraying Sami. Sami Zayn's character is obnoxious for real. Like, oh man. If Sami, oh man, it'd be funny if WWE trolled us all and just had Sami just beat Trick Williams at WrestleMania. That'd be crazy, but I see WWE doing it though. They had him beat Mello anyways. And I remember Mello asked for stories. Like, Mello, he wasn't satisfied with his championship. I heard so many reports of him wanting storylines. And they're like, okay, cool. You'll just lose it to Sami. Poor man, dude. That really sucks. That really sucks, for real. But yeah, the show just ends with, Trick Williams trick shotting Sami Zayn, and that's kind of how we went off air. And then they had Sami Zayn try to be the sympathetic babyface, but the thing was, Sami Zayn was so hated by the audience because Melo got done so dirty, and Sami Zayn was chasing the championship, the world championship, the WWE championship for so long that he just randomly won a mid card title, But then the audience was just they just didn't care. Sami Zayn was face down in the ring, laid out, and then Trick Williams and Trick Williams and Lil Yachty were standing above the dude, and they wanted you to care about Sami Zayn. They wanted you to feel sorry for him. Nobody felt sorry for them. They were quiet, and then the show went off air, and that's how SmackDown ended. I was right the entire time. You're talking about I'm desperate for views. What are you talking about? So many people kept saying that. It doesn't annoy me, but it's just like these modern fans act like they don't argue with facts; they argue with feelings. It gets irritating after a while, man. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just like, just shut the hell up. Just if you don't know what the hell you talking about, just don't even type, But yeah, the crowd hated Sami. Cody didn't interest them. And then the show went off air. And that was it. That was SmackDown. And now we got 1 week until WrestleMania. After this. Because WrestleMania is in 14 days. It's in a fortnight. So it's 2 weeks away. 14 days exactly. And yeah, absolutely nothing happened on the show. Except for, Ari Emanuel's, Pat McAfee, and then... Oh yeah, Pat McAfee also threatened to never show his face in WWE again if Randy Orton loses. Like that's gonna impact us. We got Jelly Roll, Lil Yachty, and Pat McAfee. What a great WrestleMania season! I don't know why Jelly Roll was injected into Randy Orton and it's probably meant Ari's doing too. But damn, dude, so. Anyways. Yeah, but that was SmackDown. Hooray. Ooh. Till next time, I guess.